My wife was keeping a pet behind my back. A little boy toy she'd even hired as her assistant at Caldwell Industries. When I found out the truth, I wasn't so much angry as I was contemptuous. A few cold laughs in the privacy of my own mind, and that was it. Then, I turned my attention to the new intern at my own company and decided to give her some special guidance. Later, Serena would be on her knees, telling me she was wrong. I just smiled that same cold smile. The Caldwells only eat because the Sterlings allow it. Don't you think it's a little late to be sorry? Beside me, Bianca Frost would grind the heel of her stilettos into Serena's fingers again and again. "I'm sorry," Bianca would say, her voice dripping with disdain. "Mr. Sterling prefers the feeling of his feet on a Starlight headliner now. You're far too dirty for that. You don't deserve it." After that, I took back everything I'd ever given the Caldwells. Then I sent their entire family on a one-way trip to Africa to watch the great animal migration for the rest of their lives. My assistant's efficiency had always been top-notch. From the moment I noticed something was off to the moment the truth was laid bare took less than a week. Staring at the thick file on my desk, a cold smirk touched my lips. The college kid was handsome, I'd give him that. No wonder Serena, with her impossibly high standards, had been tempted. I closed the file and picked up the dossiers for the new class of interns, flipping through them one by one. I pointed to a particular photo. Find out if she has a boyfriend. If she doesn't, I like to give her some one-on-one guidance. Soon enough, the stunning, ice-cold beauty was brought before me. Bianca Frost, strikingly beautiful, a graduate from a top-tier university. In terms of looks alone, she was a goddess. It was no exaggeration to say that if you dropped her in Hollywood, she'd have an army of fans and sycophants overnight. Her financial situation was clearly modest. Though she was impeccably put together, the details gave her away. I knew why, of course. She'd clawed her way out of some small town in the Rust Belt. She had the talent, the ambition, but lacked the capital and the connections. She graduated from an Ivy League school on a full scholarship, fought her way to the top of the interview pool, and landed an internship at Sterling Enterprises. She was the poster child for changing your fate through sheer intellect. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, she could easily work her way into the upper middle class on her own merits. A world away from the pet Serena was keeping. Both had impressive exteriors, but they housed entirely different souls. One was a brilliant, ambitious predator. The other was a useless parasite with an insatiable appetite. And a man can never, ever tolerate betrayal. If Serena wanted to play games, I'd play along. As for getting my own hands dirty, please, that was beneath me. The insignificant house of Caldwell wasn't worthy of the effort. Serena was typically a calm person, excellent at masking her true feelings. I'd never seen her lose her composure. She was a masterclass actress, playing the part of my loving, devoted wife. If it hadn't been for a chance discovery, she might have kept the charade going indefinitely. That day, I had gone to Caldwell Industries to take her to lunch. There, I happened to notice a five-star hotel key card on the desk of a male assistant in the executive suite. Judging by the wear and tear on the card, it had been in use for a long time, at least 6 months. It made me frown. The reason was simple. The assistant was well-dressed, decked out in luxury brands, but he wore them with all the grace of a pig in a tuxedo. There was no way he could afford to keep a room at a five-star hotel year-round. Very few people at Caldwell Industries could, and the person closest to him was, of course, my wife. Lunch that day was pleasant enough. My smile was just a little more brittle. After 5 years of marriage, she still treated me with the same cloying affection as when we were newlyweds. She was so very concerned about me. I knew, of course, that it was mostly an act, but in our world, how much genuine emotion was there to be found? All I ever demanded was loyalty. The wife of a Sterling could not, under any circumstances, be a traitor. My assistant placed the completed investigation on my desk. Serena had been discreet. The college kid's name was Sean Carter, a graduate of some third-rate community college. Serena gave him money for a house, a car, but she was never seen with him in public. Even at the office, their interactions were strictly professional. Sometimes, she would even berate him harshly. Their trysts were reserved for the noon hour. Every day, they would slip away to the hotel near the office, the one that matched the key card. When they were finished, they would return to the company separately. This arrangement had been going on for nearly a year, undetected. It seemed my wife had some impressive counter-surveillance skills. Knowing all this put me in a foul mood. She wanted the support of the Sterling family, but she also craved the affections of a pretty boy. You can't have it both ways. I thought about confronting her. Then I thought better of it. The families were too entangled. Over the years, with the backing of Sterling Enterprises, Caldwell Industries had grown considerably. Our businesses were intertwined. A rash move would mean significant losses for Sterling as well. My assistant watched me, his brow furrowed. Mr. Sterling, about the first ladies. Indiscretion. He was a Sterling family loyalist, my assistant for nearly a decade. Reliable. Capable. His eyes were calm, but I saw the flash of fury, of murderous intent, within them. I waved a dismissive hand, cutting him off. It's not necessary. They aren't worth your time. It was the simple truth. Caldwell Industries might be a publicly traded company, but compared to Sterling Enterprises, it was a gnat. I couldn't be bothered to swat a tool. She wanted a vibrator, so she found one. If I threw this one away, what would happen? She'd just find another. Force her to admit she cheated? Pointless. She was already tainted. Why would I want her back? Her tears of regret were worthless. It wasn't like I was some romantic hero fighting for true love. I knew that if I showed her the slightest hint of proof, no, I wouldn't even need proof, she would drop to her knees and beg for forgiveness. The Sterling family was an unshakable empire, and I was its sole heir. The line of women who wanted to climb into my bed was endless. To put it bluntly, even if I brought women into our home and flaunted them in her face, the Caldwells would have no choice but to smile and bear it. Because every year, I handed her family contracts worth at least $100 million, accounting for more than half of their company's profits. No matter how much she hated it, she would have to endure it, just like in the past. It didn't matter if I was at fault. If I was unhappy, she was always the one to apologize. It was always followed by expensive gifts and romantic gestures to placate me. The gifts were always meticulously chosen, valuable, grand, perfectly suited to my tastes. Usually, I never got truly angry with her. There was no point. I'd accept the gift, then sweeten the pot with another contract. A form of compensation, I suppose. In our circle, everyone said Serena and I were the picture of marital bliss. A true power couple. I never denied it. Perhaps, on some level, I believed it too. There's no room for sentiment in this world. What I valued most was that I held all the cards. I never had to answer to anyone. Now, the thought of Serena, so utterly filthy, just made me sick. It was the kind of revulsion you feel standing in a pile of garbage. A feeling I'd never had before. My assistant saw I was silent and said nothing more, simply standing by my side. 5 years ago, while Sterling Enterprises was expanding into overseas markets, a domestic rival saw its chance and attacked us while our capital chain was stretched thin. The situation was critical. If we couldn't close the funding gap in time, the entire Sterling empire could have capsized. The crisis scared off many of our partners. No one was willing to risk angering a conglomerate on par with Sterling Enterprises to bet on an uncertain future. But the head of the Caldwell family, Serena's father, decided to throw us a lifeline. Of course, all he really did was make a few introductions. But it was enough. It bought Sterling Enterprises the time it needed. The result was the Sterling Enterprises of today, respected by all, and a Caldwell Industries that grew stronger by the day. Standing in my mansion, Bianca Frost showed none of the usual awe or hunger for money that others did. She gave me a single, assessing glance, then lowered her head, a thoughtful glint in her eyes. My assistant must have been very clear when he summoned her. The offer was generous. $50,000 a month in living expenses, with everything else compensated separately. Everything had a price tag. She was smart. She knew this money wouldn't come easy. A simple-kept woman wasn't worth that much. My assistant was always meticulous. To her unasked questions, he had simply smiled. This is Mr. Sterling's directive. The details are for the two of you to discuss. I said nothing. Even in a consensual transaction, it was best to be discreet. In truth, I was certain Bianca wouldn't refuse. She didn't have the right to refuse, unless she was prepared to pack up and move to another city. She had the looks, the ambition, the talent, the cunning, but she lacked the power and the platform. For a woman who refused to be ordinary, the temptation to leap to the top in a single bound was simply too great. That $50,000 a month was probably the least valuable part of the deal. Bianca had already chosen her path long ago. The only question was who would give her the opportunity. She had no room to refuse. When I extended my invitation for private guidance, she neither accepted nor rejected it, simply waiting for me to name my price. Finally, my assistant left, leaving the two of us alone in the grand living room of the mansion. Bianca lifted her head, her eyes burning with raw ambition. Mr. Sterling, she said, her voice steady. Besides my body, what else will I have to give? A playful smile touched my lips. I leaned back against the sofa, just watching her. She was sharp, and she knew I was waiting for her to make the next move. After a long moment of hesitation, she moved to sit beside me. Her fingers were beautiful, as white and elegant as carved ivory. I studied her. Right now, her icy demeanor was tinged with a hint of shyness. Satisfied, very satisfied. She was beautiful, younger and more beautiful than Serena. And who doesn't prefer young and beautiful? The reach of the Sterling family was vast. The secrets Serena thought she had hidden so well were no secrets at all if I wanted them known. I had simply trusted her too much before. Or perhaps I was just too confident in myself. I once thought Serena was obedient enough. As long as she stayed that way, things were fine. But I was wrong. Suddenly, the only emotion I could feel for Serena was disgust. A tainted woman was not fit to be the lady of the Sterling house. The first lady of Sterling could be ambitious. She could be a decorative vase, but she had to be obedient, especially when it came to the interests of the family. To play her little games behind my back. Was she feeling so repressed by my side that she needed to find someone to kneel and worship her? To feel like a pampered princess again? It seemed she was enjoying herself. Fine. I'd see for myself just how much fun a younger model could be. Exactly what you think, I said, my voice lazy, but my eyes locked onto hers. Loyalty. I spelled it out for her. Be my little canary, and I'll give you resources. How high you can fly will depend on your own abilities. But all of it, is predicated on loyalty. Bianca seemed stunned, as if she couldn't believe her luck. She lowered her head, but I could see the irrepressible light shining in her eyes. It was the light of ambition. I chuckled and made it even plainer. The Caldwells have been getting too bold for too long. I need a sharp blade, a blade that is both sharp and obedient. The choice is yours. This was exactly what Bianca had been hoping for. She was an ambitious woman with beauty and talent, but no power or platform. Being my kept woman was perhaps an excellent choice. At least I was only in my early 30s, a far better prospect than some fossil in his 50s or 60s. Bianca was silent. Then a blush crept up her cheeks. Despite being prepared to sacrifice everything, a woman who had saved herself for the sake of her ambition wasn't entirely shameless. I knew my words were blunt, frivolous, and difficult for her to accept in the moment. But what did it matter? She wouldn't refuse, and the Sterling family had the means to ensure her loyalty indefinitely. She lifted her head and looked at me, the initial distance in her eyes replaced by a blazing intensity. She rose from the sofa and slowly knelt beside me, a clear gesture of submission. Her reaction, I had to admit, exceeded my expectations. She accepted her role quickly. I like that. No pretense. Mr. Sterling, she murmured, I am yours to command. It took me a moment to fully grasp her meaning. This woman's ambition was truly something else. I didn't know whether to laugh or be impressed. She was afraid her blade wasn't sharp enough and wanted to start honing it immediately. I smiled, genuinely pleased. This girl was interesting. A good choice. She was getting into character awfully fast. I'd seen the photos. The way Sean Carter looked at Serena was full of adoration, of fawning, subservient worship. With him, Serena was the one holding the purse strings, the one in control, and she reveled in it. But the way Bianca was looking at me now was like she was observing an unruly little brother. And she was a good 7 years younger than me. Was she mocking me? Daring me to prove my dominance? That made me angry. The duties of the CEO of Sterling Enterprises could wait. A man's pride was not to be trifled with. I hauled her up and threw her into the bedroom. 3 hours later, I dragged my exhausted body up and reached for a cigarette. This girl, Bianca, was insane. She was clearly inexperienced, but she refused to back down, matching my every move with a fierce determination not to lose. In the end, it was I who surrendered. She gritted her teeth against the discomfort in her body and lit the cigarette for me. Her eyes still held that soft tenderness, but now it was mixed with a newfound adoration. Her previous clothes were unwearable, torn to shreds. I gently lifted her chin, a smirk on my face. Remember, be a good girl. Come when you're called. She remained silent, making no demands or asking any questions. She stood up gracefully, looking around for anything that was still wearable. Yes, Mr. Sterling, I understand. She looked me straight in the eye. Her clothes were ruined, and I couldn't very well let her leave like this. She was my woman now, after all. I picked up the phone and called my assistant. Buy a few outfits for Miss Frost. Yes, she was my assistant now. My personal assistant. I admired her stunning figure as she slipped into the designer stockings and Saint Laurent heels my assistant delivered. Perfect. Beautiful. She bit her lip, then finally spoke. Mr. Sterling, these shoes aren't comfortable, and they'll get dusty outside. I should just wear sneakers. I let out a low laugh, caressing her cheek. Comfort doesn't matter. Beauty is all that matters. I continued. And as for dust, top-tier Saint Laurent heels like these never have to touch the pavement. She met my gaze with a confused look. I glanced meaningfully toward the garage. When you wear these, the only thing they'll be touching is the Starlight headliner. Her face flushed crimson. The Maybach that had brought her here had that exact feature. She knew precisely what I meant. Now I understood the simple pleasures of youth, the kind of thrill Serena had been chasing. When Bianca had first arrived, she had clearly prepared herself, but her strained finances were still evident. Her professional suit was cheap, as were her heels. The stockings had a coarse texture, the kind you buy from a street vendor. The clothes my assistant brought fit her perfectly. She had fully embraced her new role, no longer seeing herself as a mere office worker, but as someone who needed to absorb every bit of management knowledge she could. I found it both amusing and a little endearing. For the next month, I didn't see Serena. I didn't even go home. I spent every day with Bianca. "Mr. Sterling, you have my word," she'd say. "In 1 year, at most, I will be the sharpest blade in your hand. I will cut down any obstacle you command." I shook my head. "That's too long. I'll give you 2 more months. All you need to learn is how to put the most capable people in the right positions. The specifics will be handled by them." To that end, I arranged for the best minds at Sterling Enterprises to give Bianca private lessons, a curriculum tailor-made for the eventual takedown of the Caldwells. Bianca accepted all of it without question. Her only way of thanking me was to exhaust me in other ways. After a long day of exercise, she disregarded her own fatigue and watched me cautiously. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "Your birthday is coming up. What would you like?" I was taken aback. She wanted to buy me a gift. It was unnecessary, really. What could she possibly afford? The clothes I bought her cost more than her entire year's living allowance. But seeing the hopeful look in her eyes, my heart softened. She was a natural beauty, and now, dressed according to my tastes, she was even more breathtaking. It really was a pleasure, a true delight. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to disappoint her. "A tie," I said, "and when the time comes, you'll tie it for me yourself." Bianca nodded, a genuine, radiant smile spreading across her face. Her taste was excellent. The color of the tie she chose was perfect. I loved it. In return, the target of my gift-giving shifted from Serena to Bianca. Over time, her gifts to me became more frequent. Some were expensive, others just a small trinket. But without exception, each was chosen with immense care. It wasn't until now, a full month later, that Serena finally deigned to come looking for me. She must have been having so much fun she forgot the time, only now remembering that her husband hadn't been home in 30 days. Well, it was time to settle the accounts. I'd start by collecting some interest. I hadn't made any effort to hide my affair with Bianca. It wouldn't have been difficult, but why bother? A man who doesn't come home for a month. Anyone with a vested interest could easily find out what he was up to. I knew Serena was anxious. She could feel her position was threatened. She said no by whom. When I saw her, a scornful smile flickered across my face before I smoothed it back into my usual indifferent mask. There was even a hint of disgust. I was completely over her. In terms of looks, she wasn't as beautiful as Bianca. In terms of talent, there was no comparison. As for the Caldwell family backing her, well, we'd see if Bianca could replace them. Serena looked at me, her expression placating. "Lucas, have you been?" "Okay. I know you've been busy lately, so I didn't want to disturb you. I booked a table at our favorite restaurant tonight. Let's have a nice dinner." I had no time for her tonight. I already had plans with Bianca. We were going to witness the romance of the Starlight headliner together. I was about to refuse when Serena changed the subject. "Lucas, I heard Sterling Enterprises has a few new projects. They were originally slated for Caldwell Industries, but I heard they were given to some new startup." Her voice became wheedling. "Could you give them back to us? I'll take care of the other company. Throw them a few small contracts to keep them happy." So that was the real reason she was here. Too bad for her. That new little startup was the one I had established for Bianca, and it was the blade I intended to drive into the heart of Caldwell Industries. Since the first move had already been made, there was no longer any need to be pleasant to the Caldwells. My assistant would handle the details. I didn't need to worry about it. I shot her a sardonic look. "The contracts of Sterling Enterprises go to whomever I choose. Your family has already taken more than its share." I laughed coldly to myself. It wasn't that I didn't want to act on Serena's infidelity. The only reason I'd held back was to forge an obedient weapon. This was a chance for Bianca to practice, and in the future, she would become a capable lieutenant. Serena fell silent, likely not expecting me to be so blunt. A flicker of panic crossed her face. "Lucas, don't be like this. We can't let it affect the partnership between our companies." It seems the good life has gone on for too long. Some people have forgotten their place." I sized her up with amusement. "What's this? Has the Caldwell appetite grown so large that you're starting to question my decisions?" Now, she was truly flustered. After a long hesitation, she switched to her softest, most gentle tone. Lucas, did that woman say something to you? Don't let her deceive you. I'm your wife. The Caldwells are your allies. You can play around however you want. I won't interfere. But you can't joke about our company's partnership. I gave her a smirk, my eyes raking over her. Now, you remember how important the Sterlings are? Where was this concern when you were keeping your pet? Just then, Bianca knocked and entered. She was delivering a file. She placed it on my desk and was about to leave. But I reached out and pulled her into my lap. Serena froze, her face a mask of panic. Bianca, too, looked momentarily flustered. This was their first meeting. Serena lowered her head, as if she were the one who had something to be ashamed of. I couldn't be bothered with her. Bianca was perceptive. She knew exactly why I was doing this. It was pure provocation. Mr. Sterling, she cooed, you promised you'd have dinner with me tonight. Don't you forget. So understanding. Purposely acting spoiled right in front of Serena. Now Serena was utterly stunned, especially when she saw the limited edition designer clothes and handbag on Bianca. She knew they were for me. Humiliation washed over her, but all she did was stare at Bianca. Her eyes betrayed her panic and insecurity. The air in the room grew thick and silent. Just as my patience was wearing thin, Serena finally lifted her head. The daughters of the Caldwell family were bred to secure benefits for their house. They were no fools. In the month I had been gone, Serena had probably investigated Bianca from top to bottom, but she had been confident, thinking her own secrets were safe, assuming I was just seeking a momentary thrill that wouldn't threaten her status. Now, seeing Bianca dare to provoke her to her face, that confidence evaporated. Lucas, so this is your new assistant. She's very nice, Serena managed, her eyes red-rimmed, forcing a pained smile. My assistant, sensing the tense atmosphere, moved to enter, but I waved him off. This was a minor skirmish. Serena couldn't stir up any real trouble. I settled Bianca more comfortably on my lap, glancing at Serena with undisguised contempt. Serena didn't dare object. She stood meekly to the side, even forcing a smile at Bianca. Miss Frost, I apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to talk to Lucas about the contracts. Before she could finish, I cut her off. Serena, I told you, the contracts are not going to the Caldwells. What is it you don't understand? Have you forgotten your place? Serena froze on the spot, shocked that I would humiliate her so openly. With my arm around Bianca, I didn't even bother to look at Serena. Serena, I haven't even started to deal with you and that college boy of yours. You'd be wise not to provoke me. She panicked. She thought she had covered her tracks so well. She scrambled to explain. Lucas, it's not what you think. I never betrayed you. I just needed someone to talk to sometimes. That's all. I gave a non-committal, you could go now. I have no interest in your excuses. With a thud, she dropped her knees and crawled a few steps forward, begging. Lucas, you have to believe me. I would never betray you. I swear I didn't. I said nothing, just stared at her coldly. I had been in a good mood today, and she had ruined it completely. Perhaps the Caldwells had made too much money these past few years and had forgotten how they used to grovel. Or perhaps she thought that by marrying me, she was now my equal. My patience had run out. Serena, what do you think you are? She stared dumbfounded. She had likely never been insulted so cruelly by me before, and was at a loss for what to do. I continued to dismantle her lies, giving her no quarter. Have you forgotten what you are? The Caldwells survive because Sterling Enterprises allows them to. What about your sordid little affair gives me any reason to trust you? What a waste of time. I had been looking forward to my date with Bianca tonight, and she had soured my mood. In the past, out of respect for her role as my wife and her attentiveness to me, I had maintained a cordial relationship. Now I had decided to cut the Caldwells loose entirely. There was no need for pleasantries. I stopped looking at Serena and patted Bianca's thigh. Let's go, I said softly. We'll clock out early today. Let's go shopping. Just as I stood up, Serena suddenly grabbed Bianca's leg. Miss Frost, I swear I won't interfere with you and Lucas. Please help me. I really didn't betray him. Before she could finish, Bianca cut her off. Mrs. Caldwell, I have no authority to make decisions for Mr. Sterling, but in my opinion, the most important thing to him is loyalty. Serena froze. She knew what Bianca meant. She just looked at me, her eyes pleading, hoping I would reverse my decision. Impossible. Forget the fact that Serena was tainted. Even if she wasn't, if I decided not to give him the contracts, that was my prerogative. It seemed Serena still hadn't learned her place. Or perhaps I had been too good to her. Once we were in the car, I turned to Bianca with a cold smile and gave my command. There's no more time for you to study. It's time for practical application. I paused, then continued. The Caldwells have a major project underway, and their capital chain is stretched thin. This will be your practice run. Teach them a lesson. Bianca was obedient. She simply murmured, yes, and said nothing more, but the fire in her eyes told me her inner world was anything but calm. Caldwell Industries was in a vulnerable state, more perilous than Sterling's position 5 years ago. However, it wouldn't be enough to crush them completely. Even a starving camel is bigger than a horse. I suspected that the head of the Caldwell family was still unaware of Serena's little mess. After this financial blow, he would surely find out, and he would give me a satisfactory answer. I never liked to overstep. The daughter belonged to the Caldwells. It was their duty to discipline her. Considering they had helped Sterling Enterprises in the past, if they were smart, I wouldn't be opposed to leaving them a way out. Bianca's eyes were smoldering. I know, she purred, but didn't Mr. Sterling want me to experience the romance of the Starlight headliner? The little vixen. But she was right. I didn't want to experience that. Soon, the excellent soundproofing of the car proved its worth. I kept Bianca in a secluded mansion north of the city. It was quiet, and Serena didn't have a key. Bianca was obedient and never raised any objections. The moment we entered the house, I wrapped my arms around her with a wicked grin. The Starlight headliner and the St. Lawrence are a good match, aren't they? You were so excited you nearly kicked out the sunroof. A rare blush appeared on Bianca's face. Mr. Sterling, you're so bad. You can deduct the repair costs from my living expenses. I rolled my eyes. I wasn't about to nickel and dime her over a sunroof. The sounds she had made were beautiful, more than enough to cover the cost of repairs. I smiled as I watched her disappear into the bathroom. She came out quickly, probably worried I would get bored, carrying a platter of fruit. Perhaps because it was prepared by a beauty, the fruit tasted sweeter than usual. With the important business taken care of, it was time to address another important matter. Bianca, come here. She shook out her freshly dried hair and walked gracefully to my side. Is Mr. Sterling not tired yet? I was speechless. What was this woman thinking? I grabbed an orange, peeled it, and stuffed a slice in her mouth to shut her up. She didn't get annoyed, just shot me a flirtatious glance. A visible blush rose on her cheeks, and her eyes danced with amusement. Thank you, Mr. Sterling. What a little siren. Every look, every smile was intoxicating, but my lower back was still aching. I had no energy left. Mr. Sterling, Bianca asked cautiously, for this attack, can I be the one to make the decisions? She met my curious gaze and looked a little embarrassed. Don't worry, I'll have you approve the plan before I act. I just have some ideas I'd like to try. I pinched her cheek and chuckled. It seems my little canary is getting more and more ambitious. Bianca snuggled into my arms. No, it's not that. I just want to be able to stand by your side one day, openly and proudly. So, her ambition was growing. But that was a good thing. I wasn't looking for an obedient doll, was I? I didn't choose Bianca just because she was beautiful. There were plenty of beautiful women in the world. What I valued in her were her outstanding achievements. Her resume was proof enough of her ambition. I nodded, agreeing to her request. With the Sterling Enterprises investment team overseeing things, nothing could go too wrong. Besides, the girl needed to grow. Bianca kissed me passionately. Thank you, Mr. Sterling. I didn't mind my woman having ambition. In fact, I was very generous with it. In the past, as long as Serena was obedient, I would always give her, or rather Caldwell Industries, some business. As long as the interests of Sterling Enterprises were protected, why not give it to someone more obedient? Make the plan detailed. My parents are returning from abroad soon. If you do this well, you can come home with me to meet them. She nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. I'll do as you say, Mr. Sterling. I'll be sure to satisfy you this time. I just smiled, non-committal. After dinner, I called my assistant. I had him assemble the best team at Sterling Enterprises. I also allocated over $30 million in capital. Now it all depends on you, I told Bianca. The bar isn't high. A target of $10 million will be considered a pass. Bianca was stunned. She hadn't expected me to be so decisive. Mr. Sterling. I can't remember when, but she had stopped calling me Mr. Sterling and started calling me Sir or, in moments of passion, Lucas. Bianca's voice was still soft, but it held an unshakable resolve. Sir, I won't disappoint you. I will be the most loyal, sharpest blade in your hand. Yes, still the same clever Bianca. She knew that with me, loyalty was far more important than ability. I smiled faintly. A clever woman always inspires affection. She knelt gently by my side, looking at me with tenderness. This was her usual reaction after receiving praise. Not like Serena, who only ever offered a submissive, fake smile. Sir, you're so good to me. I don't think I could ever leave you. I gently stroked her hair. I knew the words were only half true, but they still pleased me. Who said I was going to let you go? You're not leaving me in this lifetime. Bianca knew too many of Sterling Enterprises' secrets. How could I ever let her leave? Remember, you are mine. It was half a month later when the Caldwells finally came to my door to apologize. In that time, Bianca's performance could no longer be described as merely excellent. One could even say she was born for this kind of work. The operation had been hastily planned and wasn't thoroughly prepared, but the results Bianca delivered were flawless. A full $20 million. To reward her, I decided to gift her the mansion we were currently living in. I was sure Bianca would like it. I didn't care if she loved my money or my status. The Sterling fortune couldn't be spent in several lifetimes. But I wouldn't tolerate the person lying next to me, plotting against me, betraying me. They were supposed to be different. Thinking of Bianca's reaction, the corners of my mouth turned up. I had barely smiled since discovering Serena's affair. But since Bianca came along, her every move seemed to bring me joy. In the mansion's living room, the head of the Caldwell family stood before me, trembling with fear. Lucas, I know about the incident. Don't worry, I've already taken care of that Sean Carter. He's been sent to Mexico. I guarantee he will never appear before you again. By now, he's probably been turned into spare parts. As for Serena, I've punished her severely. If you're still not satisfied, you can punish her however you wish. We've also prepared a lavish gift for Miss Frost. We will ensure no one disturbs your leisure. So you see, could we please not let this affect the partnership between our families? I nodded. If the Caldwells continued to be this sensible, I wouldn't want to push things to the extreme. After all, these were old foxes of the business world. They couldn't help you much, but if they wanted to cause trouble, they had plenty of ways. All right, let it be. Make sure she learned her lesson. If there's a next time, don't blame me for being merciless. I waved my hand. My dear father-in-law wisely took his leave. This time, Bianca had done well. The entire upper management of Sterling Enterprises recognized her abilities. The Caldwells had suffered heavy losses, a truly crippling blow. Yet they still had to come, smiling, and present her with an expensive gift. I glanced at it. A ruby necklace. Good quality, worth over $1 million. Fitting for Bianca. However, Bianca wasn't back yet, and there was a more important issue to address. I looked at my assistant. What about Bianca Frost? My assistant understood my meaning. Very capable. Very ambitious. I nodded, but I wasn't satisfied with that answer. I asked another question. Can this girl be trusted? Lately, my assistant's main job had been investigation. The position of the Sterling family's first lady was crucial. I didn't want a repeat of the Serena incident. Miss Frost is very capable. Her small company is developing well. It is best for the first lady of Sterling to be dependent on the Sterling family. However, Miss Frost's future path is for you to decide. My assistant's words were clear. The current Bianca was smart, but not yet under control. I thought for a moment, then said nothing. We'd deal with the future when it came. If Bianca wanted to marry into the Sterling family, it would be best if she took the initiative on this matter. All right, I understand. We'll stop here. No need to keep such a close watch on her anymore. My assistant was surprised, but said nothing, maintaining his usual calm demeanor. Before long, the sound of the door opening filled the hall. The familiar, elegant figure walked in. Sir, I'm home. I nodded. The girl had brought a cake. It seemed she wanted to celebrate with me. Congratulations, Bianca. Look at your gift. Do you like it? She paused, subconsciously taking the property deed. Sir, I can't accept this. I've already earned a lot from this operation. I chuckled. Though she said she didn't want it, I could see she was genuinely happy. It was the happiness of being recognized, and the happiness of being one step closer to marrying into the Sterling family. A mere mansion couldn't satisfy her ambition. The warm sunlight enveloped her beautiful face, a breathtaking sight. I knew this woman was ambitious, though she never mentioned it in front of me. I didn't ask before, because she wasn't yet qualified for me to ask. I wouldn't ask in the future, because her ambition wasn't yet effectively constrained. We'd deal with the future when it came. Mr. Sterling, your parents will be returning soon. Do you think we should host a banquet? In the office, my assistant cautiously asked for my opinion. As the previous generation's heads of the Sterling family, my parents' annual return from abroad was always marked by a grand banquet. Their presence was the family's greatest asset, and the annual event brought in numerous deals. It couldn't be taken too seriously. In recent years, the Caldwells would always be there, fawning and flattering. This year would surely be no exception, especially given what Serena had done. However, I was already considering who my date would be. Serena attending with me would be the most appropriate choice, but I was unwilling. It would signal that the incident between the Sterlings and Caldwells was over. Given how sensible the Caldwells had been, I should probably give them that face. But I would not take Serena back as my wife. I didn't want to subject myself to that. But bringing Bianca also posed a problem. I wasn't divorced yet. This kind of scandalous news was never a good thing. Soon, I made my decision. Perhaps this was the best opportunity to sever ties between the Sterling and Caldwell families. Yes, my date will be Bianca Frost. For everything else, follow the standards of previous years. My assistant hesitated. Sir, are you sure you don't want to reconsider? Keeping a few canaries was no problem. But for her to attend as my date was a clear signal. It meant the Sterlings were completely abandoning the Caldwells, and it meant Bianca was no longer just a canary. Whether she ultimately married into the Sterling family or not, she would be branded as mine. I waved my hand, dismissing my assistant. Just as I was thinking about how to break this to my parents, there was a knock on the door. It was Bianca. Seeing me look at her, her eyes filled with a smile. Sir, dressed in her professional attire, her long legs clad in black stockings, she was an appetizing sight. She stood cautiously by my side, her voice filled with joy. Sir, I booked a table at the revolving restaurant tonight. You said you liked it last time. I nodded, ruffling her hair. Good. Seeing me agree, Bianca grew even happier. Before she could say anything else, I pulled her into my arms and kissed her red lips. Bianca submitted willingly, returning my passion with equal fervor. After a long moment, we broke apart. Bianca, my parents are returning soon. Sterling Enterprises will host a welcome banquet. I want you to be my date. She fell silent, her eyes filled with excitement. I could feel her heart pounding in her chest. Sir, will your parents agree? This will put the Sterling family in a very awkward position. Despite her inner joy, her words addressed the most crucial point. I nodded. I was very satisfied with this woman who was already stepping into the role of the Sterling family's first lady. It seemed that after all the rigorous training, Bianca was already well-versed in the rules of high society. It's fine. The Caldwells can be forgiven, and the partnership can continue. But Serena is out of the question. You're a company owner yourself now, with a considerable net worth. You need to get used to these kind of events. Otherwise, it's me who will be embarrassed. I felt Bianca was doing an excellent job. As a kept woman, she was outstanding. As a businesswoman, she was more than competent. As for being a candidate for the next Mrs. Sterling, that still required some consideration. At the very least, she needed to be accepted by our social circle first. It took her a while to speak, her head lowered, hiding her expression. Her voice was thick with suppressed excitement. I will do as you say, sir. I will not embarrass you. I was satisfied with her answer. I gently kissed her lips again. Remember, you are mine, and mine alone. The gesture made Bianca pause. While I had always been dominant, I had never been so possessive. But right now, her thoughts were of no concern to me. A flicker of hurt crossed Bianca's eyes. Sir, you know my loyalty. Everything I have belongs to you. Just as I was enjoying Bianca's tenderness, a call came in from Serena. Her voice was wheedling, trying hard to sound magnanimous. Lucas, I know I was wrong. I'm begging you, please, just see me, right? This woman had tried to see me several times recently, only to be turned away by my assistant. It seemed her father had put considerable pressure on her. Understandable, given the heavy losses the Caldwells had suffered. I didn't refuse. I was already considering how to resolve this problem for good. Whether I needed to resolve the people involved would depend on the Caldwells' attitude. Fine. 3 p.m. The coffee shop downstairs from the Sterling building. In the coffee shop, Serena looked much thinner, the exhaustion on her face impossible to hide. I glanced at her once and then looked away. She wasn't as beautiful as Bianca. Serena, now aware that her position was precarious, had lost all her former arrogance. She had reverted to her old submissive self, now tinged with a hint of desperation. Lucas, I was wrong about what happened. I've changed completely. Please, can you forgive me? I shrugged nonchalantly. Why should I? Just because you know you were wrong. I have to forgive you. The world doesn't work that way. If every mistake could be forgiven, we'd be living in a utopia. Serena's expression stiffened. Then, gritting her teeth, she knelt on the floor. I had always been the center of attention. The sprawling Sterling family had only 2 young masters, both with claims to inheritance. But my brother was a full 10 years younger than me. Sterling Enterprises couldn't afford to wait. Thus, I was the sole heir. The succession battles common in powerful families never materialized in ours. Countless families in our circle wanted to form an alliance with me through marriage. The reason I chose Serena, besides her family having helped mine, was that the Caldwells were weak enough. A family so weak they could never interfere with Sterling Enterprises that I could trust. But as it turns out, People, like dogs, should not be overfed. In the beginning, she was indeed cautious and deferential. But then the profits and power made her arrogant beyond belief. Gradually, she must have started to think that what belonged to the Sterlings was hers, forgetting that she could lose it all at any moment. I had mostly turned a blind eye to her extravagances, being quite tolerant. After all, problems that could be solved with money were not real problems. But I would never, ever tolerate betrayal. It wasn't just about being cheated on. What would come next? Would she try to change the name of Sterling Enterprises? A woman is just a piece of land. If you're rich and powerful enough, you can have as much as you want. And now she wants to regret it? Too late. Everything the Caldwells had was a gift from me. What I can give, I can certainly take away. Lucas, I really know I was wrong. My father punished me, too. Look, with that, she unbuttoned her jacket. I had been wondering why she was wearing a jacket when it wasn't cold. Now I understood. Her skin was covered in a dense network of red welts. Belt marks, probably. I wondered if he'd soaked it in salt water or chili oil first. A rather wicked thought. Lucas, you see, my father has punished me severely, and I've cleaned myself up. I'm clean. I've been tested at the hospital. Please don't be so cruel. She pulled a medical certificate out of her bag. Did she think I was that shallow? Her body might be clean, but what about her soul? Seeing that I was ignoring her, Serena, trembling, pulled a leather whip from her bag. Lucas, if you're still angry, you can hit me. I said nothing, taking a sip of my coffee, as if the person kneeling before me had nothing to do with me. Which was true. Who likes garbage? Serena crawled forward and clung to my leg, pleading. Lucas, we've been together for so many years. It was just a moment of weakness. Can't you forgive me? As for Bianca, I have no problem with you keeping her. If you don't want to touch me, we can do IVF. Just give me a child, and I'll stay home and raise it quietly. How about that? I scoffed, not even bothering to lift my eyelids. Let go, and don't use a moment of weakness as an excuse. I looked into the hotel room you had with that assistant. You paid for it. For that long? You called it a moment of weakness. Realizing what I was talking about, Serena's face turned deathly pale, but she quickly switched to a pitiful expression, though the venom in her eyes was unmistakable. Lucas, for the sake of the Caldwell family helping the Sterlings in the past, please forgive me. Didn't you promise my father you wouldn't cut off our partnership? I swear, I will never interfere with you and Miss Frost. At home, I'll do whatever she says, okay? Just then, Bianca walked in. Seeing the scene before her, she looked momentarily confused but still walked to my side. Today, Bianca was wearing a sky blue cheongsam, paired with high heels and silk stockings. She immediately captured my full attention. The little minx could stir my emotions with a single glance, a single smile. Sir, what did you call me here for? Her question confused me. I didn't call her. It took me a moment to realize Serena had. Serena didn't stand up when Bianca arrived. She wore a fawning smile. I'm sorry, Miss Frost. I had someone ask you to come. I don't mean anything by it. I just wanted to make my position clear. I will never interfere with you and Lucas. Please, help me talk to him. The Caldwells can't survive without the Sterlings' help. Bianca frowned, but said nothing. She was smart enough to know what she could and couldn't do. Seeing Bianca's silence, Serena grew desperate. She grabbed Bianca's leg, sobbing and pleading. Watching Serena's obsequious and pathetic display, I just smiled. I didn't even have the energy to curse her anymore. She was simply too foul. Finally, I spoke a single, icy sentence. Bianca, what is your stance? A woman as sharp as Bianca would never play dumb in a moment like this. She kicked Serena away, then planted her 10-centimeter stiletto heel on Serena's hand. She ground the heel into Serena's fingers again and again. Her voice was filled with contempt. I'm sorry, mister. Sterling prefers the feeling of his feet on a Starlight headliner now. You're far too dirty for that. You don't deserve it. I was very pleased with her response. Without another word, I led Bianca out of the coffee shop. The day my parents returned, I made a point of bringing Bianca to the airport to meet them. I had mentioned her to them before, and they were curious. As for Serena, they had said nothing, which meant they approved of my actions. It also meant they were not pleased. No one gets to slap the face of the Sterling family. On the way home, I briefly explained the recent events and then stated calmly, at the welcome banquet, Bianca will be my date. I will divorce Serena at a suitable time. They nodded. Though they didn't meddle in company affairs, nothing escaped their notice. You can handle this yourself. Sterling Enterprises is in your hands now. We trust you won't act against the family's best interests. But it was clear they were more interested in Bianca. For all these years, I had been remarkably chaste. There wasn't a single woman in my executive office. Perhaps this was one of the reasons Serena thought I couldn't live without her, which fueled her recklessness. This Bianca girl seems decent, my mother said. But whether she can marry into the Sterling family is something we will have to test. Your word isn't final. I nodded, confident that Bianca's intelligence would win them over. Still, I couldn't help but ask, "Don't you have any questions?" My mother smiled. "A woman who catches your eye must be capable. Her loyalty is something you can manage. What we care about is her character. You've fallen for her, so we need to vet her carefully. We've never met her. If she's too manipulative, it's better to get rid of her early." I rubbed my nose, embarrassed. Was I really that much trouble? My father patted my shoulder. "It's not easy being the first lady of the Sterling family, especially now that you control the entire enterprise." After dinner, they summoned Bianca to the study. I tried to follow, but I was kicked out. I don't know what they talked about, but my parents were already treating her like a daughter-in-law. They even had a custom-made gown prepared for her for the welcome banquet. As for the content of their conversation, everyone just smiled cryptically. It wasn't until I cornered Bianca in the bedroom and gave her a thorough education that she finally yielded. "I just gave your parents a gift," she whispered. "As for what it is, you'll find out when we get engaged." Well, the little minx deserved a reward. As for whether she loved me or not, I think she loved what I could do. But some people's minds work in mysterious ways. Just as we were preparing for the banquet, something happened to Bianca. Staring at her unconscious form in the hospital bed, my face was as black as thunder. I looked at my assistant, my voice like ice. "Find out how this car crash happened." My assistant bowed and left, his own face a cold mask of fury. In our world, these kinds of tactics were common. Bianca was chauffeured by a company driver every day. A sudden car crash was too suspicious, especially right after I had filed for divorce. 3 days later, I was taking care of a conscious Bianca when Serena was dragged in by bodyguards and forced to her knees by the hospital bed. "Lucas, it's all this bitch's fault. If it weren't for her, you wouldn't have left me," she shrieked. "She must have been bad-mouthing me behind my back. Why did you save her? If she just died, we could go back to how things were before." The woman must have lost her mind to dare to make a move on Bianca. She had a death wish. I gave a short, derisive laugh and stretched lazily. "Serena, I thought you had learned your lesson. If you had just obediently signed the divorce papers, I might have spared the Caldwell family, kept them out of it. But since you're so determined to be a fool, then I suppose there's no reason for the Caldwells to exist anymore." Tears streamed down her face, her eyes wild with madness. "Lucas, you can't do this to me. I've been married to you for years. I wronged you once, just this once, and you're going to take everything from me." "Huh, everything indeed. A woman who was nothing more than a marriage pawn, who had brought ruin upon her family because she couldn't recognize her own place. A week ago, when the Caldwells received the divorce papers, they surely hadn't treated her kindly. Seeing her crazed state, so different from her usual polished demeanor, I felt a flicker of pity. "Serena, the only reason this is just a divorce is out of respect for the help your family gave mine in the past. You must take responsibility for your own mistakes. Everything you've lost is what you gained by marrying me. It was to be exchanged for loyalty. Since you were disloyal, isn't it only right that you lose it?" I looked at Serena with pity, not for her, but for how pathetic she was. Even now, she didn't understand the depth of her error. This time, Serena seemed to finally understand, finally grasp the miserable fate that awaited her. She broke free from the bodyguards and crawled to the bedside. "Miss Frost, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I don't want to go to prison." This time, Bianca finally shed her detached demeanor. She kicked Serena to the ground. "Serena, I used to think you were pitiful. Now, I only find you detestable. Since the Caldwells raised a monster like you, I will no longer show any mercy." Worried that Bianca would get too agitated, I waved my hand. The bodyguards dragged Serena out and into conversation. As for her fear of going to prison, she really didn't need to worry. I would never let her atone for her sins so easily. After comforting Bianca for a few minutes, I went to the office. Her injuries weren't severe. It was more the shock of being hit by a car. On the way, I closed my eyes, thinking, did the Caldwells know about this? My assistant was silent for a moment before speaking. "There's no direct evidence, but they must have known. The money used to bribe the driver didn't come from Serena's personal account. It came from Caldwell Industries." I grunted. Now I no longer needed an excuse to act. When Bianca is discharged from the hospital, let her practice her skills again. The news of my impending divorce from Serena had already spread through our circles, though no one knew the reason. The Caldwells, of course, were unwilling to give up. My dear ex-father-in-law had even indirectly asked if I was interested in choosing another wife from his family. The old man might not be a great businessman, but he was certainly prolific, with 2 sons and 2 daughters. Now he was desperately trying to sell me his other daughter. A real traditionalist. He seemed to be a fan of ancient history, eager for me to reenact the tale of the emperor who married two sisters. After I refused, he allowed Serena to make her little move. His plan was transparent. Try to replicate his past success. If it worked, the Caldwell family would benefit. If it failed, all the blame would be placed on Serena. Fine. Then let the Caldwell family become a stepping stone for my little upstart. The future First Lady of Sterling needed some net worth of her own, after all. This year's welcome banquet was far grander than any before. Sterling Enterprises was offering dozens of major partnership projects, and no one in the upper echelon of society could afford to ignore it. Such a large move was also intended to suppress any negative fallout from the divorce. When Bianca appeared at the banquet on my arm, the Caldwells, who had somehow gotten in, lost their composure. I frowned. I didn't remember sending them an invitation. I gently smoothed a stray hair on Bianca's head and affectionately patted her. Don't be nervous, Bianca. The Sterlings are the hosts tonight. This stage is ours. Bianca smiled sweetly. She had grown from an ambitious girl into a powerful woman. She kissed me on the cheek. I know, sir. I belong only to you for my entire life. The banquet went smoothly. After some initial awkwardness, Bianca handled herself with grace and poise. It seemed she had mastered the rules of high society. She was indeed suited for this life. As for the partnership with the Caldwells, I glanced contemptuously at my father-in-law. Oh wait, ex-father-in-law. I had received the divorce certificate yesterday. I made a simple announcement. From this day forward, Sterling Enterprises will sever all ties and partnerships with the Caldwell family. This time, my ex-father-in-law couldn't take it. He pushed past the bodyguards and came to stand before me. His eyes were filled with resentment, but his posture was still deferential. Mr. Sterling, even if you and Serena are divorced, the Caldwell family has done nothing to wrong you. You promised me before that you wouldn't sever our partnership. I gave him a disdainful look, wrapped my arm around Bianca, and prepared to leave. Did the Caldwells really not know where they had gone wrong? Seeing me about to leave, Serena's father dropped to his knees with a thud. Mr. Sterling, our family has already paid the price. Please, don't cut off our partnership. I looked at him, my eyes filled with killing intent. Have you? Do I need to spell out what your family has been plotting? You know exactly what happened with Bianca's car crash, don't you? Don't think you covered your tracks perfectly. That money came from your family's accounts. Don't tell me Serena suddenly developed a talent for embezzlement. After saying this, I turned to my assistant. Throw him out. Now, my ex-father-in-law was truly panicked. He looked to my father, hoping for intercession. My father shook his head and slowly sipped his wine. Lucas is the head of the Sterling family now. His word is the word of the family. That sentence sealed his fate. The Caldwells not only failed to raise their daughter properly, but were also morally bankrupt. If people like them weren't taught a harsh enough lesson, they would eventually turn around and bite the hand that fed them. Son, my father said, sitting in the study, a faint smile on his face. This Bianca girl is quite something. Are you sure you want to marry her? I nodded. Yes, father. At first, I just wanted a canary, but she is simply too perfect for the role of the Sterling family's first lady. I knew my father had been impressed with Bianca before, but his current tone made me a little uneasy. My father closed his eyes and spoke after a long pause. Good, but the daughter-in-law of the Sterling family cannot be a mere vase. Let her handle the Caldwells. Leave no loose ends. I nodded. I didn't ask what no loose ends meant. Some things didn't need to be said. The Caldwells. It was time for them to disappear. Bianca truly had a gift for it. In just 1 year, she had completely swallowed Caldwell Industries. But she was also very sensible. She transferred the bulk of the Caldwell's assets directly to the Sterling family. Now, no matter how you looked at it, Bianca's net worth was in the hundreds of millions. My parents were very pleased with her actions. Over the past few years, our relationship had evolved beyond that of a benefactor and his canary. On the day I proposed, she wore a white wedding gown. Just as I was slipping the ring on her finger, she whispered in my ear, I have a gift for you. I know you like it. And she was right. I loved it. It turned out that when Bianca first met my parents, the gift she had given them was the controlling stake in her own company. Her exact words were, Mr. Sterling requires loyalty. I don't know how else to show it, but I will give everything I have to him. As for the Caldwells, after their bankruptcy, they had planned to flee abroad to live a life of leisure. They knew that the Sterling's power in the country was immense and that we wouldn't let them off easily. My dear Bianca, with her charitable spirit, arranged for them to be sent to the depths of Africa to watch the great animal migration. The members of the Caldwell family wept with gratitude. In the video, they were on their knees, bowing their heads to the dust before Bianca over and over. They were probably thanking her. With Bianca's arrangements, I'm sure my associates in Africa would take very good care of the Caldwell family.